The world may not be heading toward one shared AI future. It may be splitting into competing AI nations. Nations with their own chips, their own data centers, their own cloud systems, their own digital priorities. And the next map of power may not be drawn only by borders. It may be drawn by intelligence infrastructure. For years, artificial intelligence was described as a universal technology, a tool that would spread everywhere, a system that would connect the world, a digital layer that would operate above borders. That idea now looks incomplete because AI is no longer just software. It is infrastructure. And infrastructure is never borderless for long. It depends on chips, factories, cloud systems, data centers, electricity, capital, regulation, security, language, and national strategy. The more AI becomes important, the less neutral it becomes. And the less neutral it becomes, the more every serious nation starts asking the same question. Can we afford to depend on someone else's intelligence infrastructure? That is the real beginning of AI nations. Not when countries start talking about AI, but when they decide they need their own capacity, their own models, their own chips, their own cloud systems, their own compute, their own industrial base for intelligence. This changes the story completely. Artificial intelligence is no longer just a technology wave. It is becoming a geopolitical structure, and that structure may divide the world into new blocks of power. To understand why, we need to understand what an AI nation really is. An AI nation is not simply a country that uses artificial intelligence. Almost every country will use AI. That alone means very little. A real AI nation is a country or regional bloc with the ability to build, host, power, govern, and deploy meaningful AI systems using infrastructure it can influence or control. That distinction matters because in the AI age, control matters more than access. You can rent AI tools and still remain dependent. You can use cloud systems and still remain structurally weak. You can consume intelligence and still fail to shape it. An AI nation is not just a user of artificial intelligence. It is a builder of intelligence infrastructure. And right now, the world is moving in that direction. We can already see the pattern. The United States has scale, cloud dominance, model leadership, and capital concentration. China is pushing hard on domestic chip capability, platform ecosystems, and sovereign AI development. Europe is increasingly talking about technological autonomy, sovereign AI, domestic compute, and strategic independence. These are not isolated policies. They are signals that the world no longer assumes intelligence can remain globally neutral infrastructure. Countries now understand that AI will shape productivity, security, economic leverage, information systems, education, media, and military capacity. That means dependence on foreign AI infrastructure is not merely a business risk. It is a civilizational risk. This is why the phrase sovereign AI is becoming more important. Sovereign AI means the ability to develop and deploy intelligence systems inside a framework a country or bloc can trust, regulate, and sustain. That does not mean complete self-sufficiency. Very few actors can achieve that, but it does mean reducing dependence on external bottlenecks. It means asking whether a nation can rely on its own compute, its own legal structure, its own infrastructure priorities, and its own model ecosystem when AI becomes critical. That is a new kind of national question, and it appears because AI has outgrown the old internet fantasy, the fantasy that digital systems automatically dissolve geopolitics. That fantasy was always partial, but in AI it breaks down even faster, because AI requires physical systems, and physical systems are always political. Who supplies the chips? Who controls the foundries? Who provides the cloud? Who sets the rules? Who controls the energy? Who can cut off access? These are not abstract questions. They are the anatomy of power in the AI era. This is why Reuters reporting about Mistral matters. France's leading AI firm is not just raising money for software expansion. It is raising major financing for a data center filled with NVIDIA chips near Paris. That is an infrastructure move. It is a statement that AI capability in Europe cannot remain purely rented or external forever. Reuters 1. The same pattern appears in Germany, where local AI data center efforts are framed partly through sovereign control. Again, this is not just about adoption. It is about positioning. Who will host intelligence? Who will run it? Who will govern it? Who will depend on whom? Reuters 2. Now look at China. Huawei's new AI chip is reportedly finding interest from major Chinese firms like Alibaba and ByteDance. That matters because it suggests something bigger than a new product cycle. It suggests a strategic attempt to reduce dependence on foreign AI hardware ecosystems and create a domestic pathway for AI growth under pressure. Reuters 3. This is what AI nations look like in practice, not slogans. Infrastructure moves, debt financing for compute, national chip substitution, strategic cloud buildouts, energy planning, domestic AI policy, control over data and deployment. Once that begins, the world changes. Because the AI future is no longer one shared technological flow. It becomes a contested map. Some regions will try to dominate the frontier. Some will try to secure autonomy. Some will remain dependent users. Some will become infrastructure zones serving larger powers. That means the AI age may produce a new hierarchy, not simply of rich and poor, but of intelligence sovereignty. At the top are actors who can design, build, power, and deploy their own systems. Below them are actors who can use AI, but only through foreign infrastructure. That is a major difference, because once a technology becomes essential, dependence becomes vulnerability. If your models rely on external chips, your capacity is fragile. If your deployment relies on foreign cloud platforms, your autonomy is limited. If your energy system cannot support AI-scale data centers, your growth stalls. If your regulation lags, your systems may be shaped by other people's priorities. This is why AI nations are emerging, not because governments suddenly became philosophical about machine intelligence, but because they understood a hard truth. Whoever controls intelligence infrastructure will shape the next layer of civilization. And that means AI is no longer only about innovation. It is about sovereignty. This also changes how we should think about globalization. The old global model assumed deep interdependence could be stable enough to support growth. In AI, that assumption weakens because the most important layers are narrow bottlenecks. A few chip designers, a few foundries, a few tool makers, a few hyperscale cloud firms, a few infrastructure-rich geographies. That creates pressure to localize, diversify, or at least partially re-domesticate critical parts of the stack. Not because countries reject globalization in theory, but because dependence at the intelligence layer feels too dangerous. And once that logic spreads, digital globalization becomes more fragmented, not disappearing, but splitting into interoperable zones in some places and rival ecosystems in others. This is what makes the rise of AI nations such an important idea. It tells us that the future may not be one unified network of intelligence. It may be multiple intelligence zones with different values, rules, infrastructures, and dependencies. One block may optimize for corporate scale, another for state control, another for regulatory trust, another for strategic autonomy. In that world, artificial intelligence stops being merely a technology market. It becomes a civilizational layer, a layer through which nations express power. This has consequences far beyond compute. Language models shape culture. Recommendation systems shape visibility. Prediction systems shape economics. Autonomous systems shape industry. Military AI shapes deterrence. Educational AI shapes cognition. Media AI shapes narratives. So when a nation fights for AI sovereignty, it is not only fighting for better software, it is fighting for influence over the operating layer of its future society. That is why AI nations will matter. And that is why the map of the future may look different from the map of the past. The old world was shaped by industrial powers, financial powers, military powers, and energy powers. The next world may be shaped by intelligence powers, powers measured not only by territory, but by compute, not only by population, but by models. Not only by factories, but by fabs, clouds, and data centers. Not only by laws, but by the systems that increasingly guide perception and action. This does not mean nations disappear into code. It means nations increasingly compete through code, chips, and infrastructure. That is the shift, and it leads to one final question. If the world is splitting into AI nations, what happens to humanity itself? Does intelligence become more plural or more divided? Do nations protect autonomy or build digital fortresses? Do local values survive? Or does machine infrastructure simply harden power into new forms? Those questions remain open. But one thing is already clear. The AI age is no longer only about smarter tools. It is about who builds the systems beneath them. And the more important those systems become, the more the world will organize around them. That is why the rise of AI nations has already begun. Not in theory, in factories, in cloud contracts, in energy planning, in chip strategy, in infrastructure finance, in the slow construction of a new geopolitical order shaped by intelligence itself.